Going back for some time, Andrew Yang has been supportive in his speeches and in his ads about Medicare for all. But now his healthcare plan is out, and it is not Medicare for all, which came up over the weekend in an interview that he had. Joining us now to break down this and other news, Michael Brooks, welcome back to the show.
Hey, pleasure to be here as always, John. How you doing?
We're doing good. Glad to have you here and here live for the first time because normally our schedules don't sync up well with our broadcast times.
We were like, forget your vacation, come to work.
Exactly.
How you doing, Brooke? Taking me right out of vacation. I love it.
Exactly. Okay, so I want to play a little section of Andrew Yang's recent appearance on, I believe it was a CBS. So we're going to play a little section of this back and forth and then comment after this.
I've looked at your healthcare plan. In fact, I've got it right here. And this plan does not call for Medicare for all. In fact, it doesn't even have a public option. So why the dissonance here?
We need to move towards universal healthcare that's high quality and nearly cost-free for Americans around the country. But reality is we have millions of Americans who are on private insurance right now, and taking those plans away from them very quickly would be untenable for many, many Americans. To me, the goal of the government has to be to demonstrate that we can outcompete private plans and then push them out of the market over time. And that's what we're proposing.
But I'm confused. Your ad is explicit. Your ad says Medicare for all. Your plan is not Medicare for all. It's not even Medicare for some because in your plan there's not even a public option.
Our plan is to expand a universal healthcare system to all Americans. Medicare for all is not the name of a bill. Medicare for all is universal healthcare for all Americans.
But Medicare for all is Medicare for all, right? I mean,
well, our healthcare plan would be based on Medicare and expanding it over time to more and more Americans. You lower the eligibility age and then you make it widely accessible.
Okay, I didn't see that in your plan.
So Michael, what did you make of that?
I think it would be less snappy, but he should replace his math pin with a disingenuity pin. I mean, look, I think that a lot of candidates have done their best to frankly obscure what is a pretty straightforward concept. It's an ambitious concept, but Medicare for all, there's no ambiguity about what that actually is. There's a bill in the Senate. Bernie Sanders has sponsored it. There's a version in the House.
Well, and really fast, let's just note that Medicare for all is in the name of the bill for Bernie Sanders.
Indeed.
Yes.
It is literally in the name of the bill and it has been written. I think that this is a really big problem. I mean, I lay blame at all of the candidates, frankly, in varying ways for obscuring it. But I think that Andrew Yang's candidacy is interesting and a problem because I think that in some ways he's definitely highlighting issues that are relevant to young people that have to do with deindustrialization. I think he totally oversells automation, though that's kind of another story. But the bigger picture of loss of jobs and the broader kind of social damage of that is valid and important. But really what he's putting on the table is, I mean, I'll try to be more diplomatic going into the new year, profoundly not comprehensive. He's basically talking about, a cash payoff and then a couple of other, like this healthcare proposal, sort of obscure industry friendly things. And now we go to the third pillar where I don't know how else to say it. It seems to me he's being very dishonest. A couple weeks ago, he was saying, it's about the spirit of Medicare for all. Now it's just using that language. It's not Medicare for all. If you want to make that argument, make that argument.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear because I know, like, if someone is watching this and they're a big supporter of Andrew Yang, they probably, like the supporters of several candidates, are frustrated with the lack of news coverage of what their candidates do. So I don't want you to think that I'm just like looking for things to criticize Andrew Yang about. I don't dislike Andrew Yang. He's been on the show. Seems like a nice guy. But on this particular issue, this is something that we've been through before in this primary. When Elizabeth Warren appeared to be backing off Medicare for all, it was rightfully a big thing in the news. Pete Buttigieg, some of his past comments about Medicare for all that were very supportive. Now he's not so much. That was a big thing because this is one of the centerpieces of this primary. If we can't have an issue with someone appearing to strongly back off of that policy, then I don't know what we're doing in this primary.
Well, that's absolutely right. And let's be clear. I think all of the candidates, I think Warren with this sort of Rube Goldberg two-part thing has hurt Medicare for All. I think Pete Buttigieg has not only hurt Medicare for All with his flip-flop, he's now campaigning against it. But Andrew Yang, and again, this is a guy whose whole brand is as an outsider and as a truth teller, is actually being the most disingenuous of any of them about Medicare for All. And I would also say, look, I think I've appreciated on other areas that Andrew Yang's been able to speak very clearly about some of the issues in terms of poverty and deindustrialization in this country. And then to really go to the most shallow talk about healthcare is ridiculous. I mean, we know that millions of people still don't have health insurance, and we know tens of millions in addition to them are basically uninsured because they can't use their health insurance essentially because it's still out of their price range. So they are, the polite phrase is undercovered. Essentially, they're paying for a life-saving service that they can barely access. Yeah. This is a predatory, disgusting industry and practice that harms tens of millions of lives, prematurely costs people their lives, and bankrupts many others. We need to change it fundamentally. And if you don't want to, then make your defense of this barbarous system. Don't play around with clear language.
Yeah. It's I want there to be clear lines, and it seems like a lot of candidates have been trying to blend those two for a long time. And I will. My last point on this is, if you are interested in learning more about the healthcare crisis, you should definitely take a look at. It just came out yesterday. Francesca Fiorentini's MSNBC special "Red, White, and Who" goes. It's all in on healthcare. Bernie Sanders makes an appearance. So if you're watching this, go take a look at that, and then tweet at MSNBC to have her do more episodes. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.